Hey, folks.
Oh,
Welcome to How to Human.
good evening.
We'll see if, Facebook takes its sweet time. YouTube does a better job at this.
Yeah, they do those
Completely.
things.
Completely.
So I got
fine.
sun yesterday.
You did. You look very sunny. You look like you have seen the sunshine.
I'm gonna have people
This
who are
is
like,
what
"Oh
happens
my gosh,
after quarantine.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I had some friends that wanted to do a photo shoot, and I was like, "That's it. Let's pile in the car and go, dude."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it totally looks like you used that accent while you did that.
Yes. We had a lot of fun. Went out to Far Rockaway. It was packed.
Oh, really?
It was packed, and there were a lot of medicinal users on the beach.
Is recreational marijuana legal?
You would think it is. They've been instructed not to. They've been instructed not to enforce the law, which, I mean, I have varying feelings on. I mean, if you're interested in the ganja, the skanky stuff, that's great. Like most things, I'm like, do it at home, do it inside your own home. It's not.
I don't know what to do with my hair.
I don't know a lot of people that can make it classy.
Oh,
marijuana? Yeah, like, don't do it out in public.
Yeah, like, not in public.
It's just not classy. Now, granted, like, if someone could do it in a class, go for it. And I guess that mostly applies to, like, really seriously, do you need to be walking around with an 8-inch blunt hanging out of your mouth? Really? Everyone can smell it.
Yeah, I mean, right? Like, you're not fooling anyone. That is not a hand-rolled cigarette.
I mean, it probably is a hand-rolled cigarette.
I mean, yeah, fair. I mean, that is fair.
The only ones I know that big are definitely hand-rolled. I'm looking at you, Tim.
I'm trying to share our things, and
yeah, I should probably do the share too while I'm talking about the good stuff.
Yeah, I know, right? While we're talking about weed. I mean, I think we should do an entire weed episode, to be completely honest, because and I've had a sex educator on my show who specifically works with people around marijuana.
Yeah.
She calls herself the canosexual. Ashley Manta. Shout out to Ashley Manta.
Wait, she has sex with cans?
No.
Like the tin cans. I mean, I get like when I make Italian dressing, Italian marinara, kind of a dressing for spaghetti noodles. I get the really big things of like Italian whole tomatoes.
Yeah, you are sounding.
Is that a canosexual?
Cannabis.
I've known a couple of champagne bottle sexuals in my time, but
I mean, porn has probably used various objects or items or
yeah. There's an unfortunately shaped tequila bottle. There is a tequila bottle.
What does that mean?
It is very plainly a phallus.
Oh, okay. Well, how is that unfortunately shaped?
I mean, maybe fortunately.
And you got tequila with it.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean, I feel like that's money saving, perhaps.
Yeah, that's true. But, I mean, so maybe unfortunately because it is quite literally like this tall.
And, oh, well, like, I mean, depending on how you feel about size.
Size queens. Yeah. So
doesn't matter your gender, you might very well be a size queen.
Yes. I've heard of those in my time very much. Yes. So we are discussing cheating today, apparently.
Yes, we're going to talk all about cheating. We're going to talk all about like a colleague, wonderful colleague who's been on Sex Talk, Dr. Justin Lee Miller came out with an article about cheat proofing, as I mute other discussions that are now blowing up at the minute I get on live.
Leave me alone. Just leave it just for 1 moment. Just one mute Service Dogs International mute. Okay, I was getting on the subway this afternoon and I saw two people with their service animal, and it was just like, come on. Really?
Was it like an iguana or something? Like what?
No, I mean, it was a proper husky. But the guy that was leading the was clearly, jacked up gym guy. And she was like this Russian model, and it was like, I just feel like there are some people who use the new service dog regulations.
Oh, like an emotional support animal rather than a service dog?
I can't tell the difference anymore. You can't tell the difference anymore because all they put on the jackets is "I'm working, don't touch me."
I mean, that's true. And also, like, I've definitely written letters for people who need emotional support dogs, cats. That's usually
a cat for emotional support.
Especially for people who have really significant anxiety.
I love my cat, but my cat is the last person I'm going to help me with my anxiety.
But what does that say something about your cat, though?
He's a jerk. He's like, my cat is the last person I'm going to for help with anything. I mean, literally a jerk. Faisal, I'm talking about you. No, I can't. I got home this afternoon. I was out in Staten Island. I came home this afternoon, and the chair that I'm in right now was spinning in circles because he had just jumped out of it and decided to move. Well, not 5 minutes later, he's in it again because he knows I want to be in it.
Right? Why is
cat?
Also, why is the damn cat?
I'm not going to get any emotional support
coming
from him.
through.
Are there comments?
Well, there's a comment on my Greg. I see you. Dr. Jones is in the house, y'all. Dr. Jones says, you can't cheat proof anything. So if we're going to be talking about cheat proofing, it's so Friday. The words aren't working. None of it. You cannot cheat proof a relationship. That's Dr. Jones's take. I actually, I agree. I don't think you can cheat proof a relationship because happy people cheat. Which I do believe we've talked a little bit about on this show. We've talked a little bit about how you can't, like, there's that's shooting for perfectionism, right? Like, that's not
perfectionism doesn't work.
They
talk about this in The Matrix. There's one of the best lines. They talk about how the Matrix, when it was first designed, was this utopia. It was perfect. Humanity's utopia. It didn't work. People didn't buy it as real. People need to have their drama, and sometimes they create it themselves.
They also need to have their choice, right?
Yeah.
I've just finished, well, no spoilers. I just finished the 3rd season of Westworld. Westworld's a lot. I can only watch like 2 episodes, and then I need a nap.
I managed the 1st season, and then I saw an episode of the 2nd season. I was like, all right, moving on.
Are you not into sci-fi dystopias?
I like sci-fi dystopias, but I'm at a point where they're jumping the shark, as we say.
Well, I
often,
feel like
things are just
season 3 was not as good as the first 2. I would say.
And this is I can't remember if I had this discussion with you. No, very good friend of mine, Brandon Maxwell, great storyteller. He did the script doctoring on my first film, Grinder. We were talking earlier, and he's also the one who did Fire When Ready series about how to have multiple orgasms as a guy. and deal with.
Oh,
And
yes, yes,
I
yes.
need to talk. I need to
You
get
and I
him on
have
the
talked
show.
about this. I don't think we've
Yes.
talked about it on the show.
So, but here I'm losing my train of thought because we're talking about story. So the big thing right now in storytelling is killing expectations.
And
like
Game of Thrones style? Is that what we're talking about?
Pretty much. And that's just basically polluted over into everything. So it doesn't matter what you're watching. They're like, oh, we're just going to kill your expectations here too. Look at this magic twist out of nowhere. Kill your expectations and your favorite character who you thought was the lead of the series. Goodbye.
I just don't need it. I just don't need all that.
Or if I remember Westworld right, it was like, let's just bring dead characters back. Now they're robots.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you didn't guess that.
Robots, and there were characters you didn't know were robots. And then now it's a robot, so now we can bring it back. I mean, the one thing I do like about the show is that it does ask the question of human nature, right? What is human nature? And I think that like, what if you created a world of robots, would humans just go in there and rape and pillage? That's essentially the argument of the show.
Yeah. And I think they're pretty spot on. I think there are some who would go in and rape and pillage because, as we've seen outside of entertainment, when you remove the threat of the law, people do things that they tell other people not to do. Ghislaine Maxwell did not kill herself. I'm just saying that now before it happens. She didn't kill herself.
I imagine like there's tons of parallels, right? Like we could be here and wax philosophical because I was a philosophy minor back in the day. And I love that shit. But I guess probably funny enough, working in the prison system actually gave me a lot of hope. And it actually gave me a lot of hope about humanity's ability to make different choices when they get an opportunity to do so. Get an opportunity. I mean, actually have resources to be able to make different choices, because I think that makes a big damn difference. But yeah, I think this is a conversation my husband and I have all the time. I think humanity is more altruistic than he believes it is. And I think altruism is a evolutionary positive for us to essentially work as a tribe. What's good for one, what's good for the many means the tribe survives. So but we could be here. We could talk about this all day, but we're supposed to be here about cheating. Not about
we're talking about altruistic cheating.
Is that a thing? We should somebody do some research on that. Is altruistic cheating a thing?
It could be a thing. Someone could come up with that. Altruistic cheating. What's the new thing this month, guys? We're doing Tommy and I do altruistic cheating. Yeah, I'm sorry.
What is that? Is it kind of juicing?
Altruistic cheating. It's Tommy. I was at a conference. I was at a conference and I heard this talk about altruistic cheating, and we're trying it now too. We have a lot of friends who do it. It's basically like wife swapping, only no one's angry at the end.
I got it.
I mean, I think the 30s are the point at which you start realizing that there was stuff going on probably in your neighborhood when you were a child.
Yes.
There was adults were playing around.
Definitely. And it was definitely way more like under the radar, not talked about. I grew up in a really rural area, and so it was definitely like there were people who had married several people, and they definitely did
at the same time.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I have 3 families. one on hectacre 1, one on hectacre 2, and one on hectacre 3, and they are spread between 3 states: North, South Dakota, and beautiful state, Florida.
Yes.
She's my third wife.
Mm-hmm. Florida's always the third wife.
I mean, what is divorce but legalized polygamy or bigamy?
I mean, it's fair. Like, I don't. Yeah.
You probably have the research figures on this. How many couples that are divorced, remarried, then go back and cheat with their former spouse?
The thing I can tell you is how common it is for once you have divorced or separated or ended a relationship, but if it's a marital relationship, you are more likely to end another one. And so and it just is up exponentially from that point. So like if you get married once and then married a second time, the likelihood that you will divorce the second time and then have a third marriage is really high. And I mean, that's probably makes sense to people because most humans, not all, some humans do come to therapy to try to figure out why the fuck they do shit. But a lot of people take their bags from their relationships and take them handy little bag, and then they just bring them to the next one, and they don't explore what's in those bags or why, and do those does that luggage actually match? See, I told you words are bad today. Does the luggage match? And if it doesn't, can you go through it together and figure out if you are actually compatible?
Yeah.
People are definitely interesting when it comes to how often they're willing to get married. I'm like, my husband and I tell each other all the time, "You're it, man. If something happens to you, or if we were to get divorced for some god awful reason, I'm not getting married again."
Oh, join a nudist colony.
Right? Why not?
Get out, enjoy yourself. So cheating. So I mean, what are the reasons people cheat? I'm assuming sex is one of them.
Sex is one of them. More than anything, actually, the highest reason people cheat is opportunity. Get it? Having an easy opportunity is one of the biggest reasons.
So yoga teachers.
I mean, who knew all yoga teachers were responsible for all the infidelity in the world? No, we love you, yoga people. I do a lot of yoga. I think what people assume is that we all have this definition of cheating too. That's the first thing, is that we do not have a universal definition of cheating.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't. What's cheating for one person is definitely not cheating for someone else.
No, not at all. So oftentimes when I get folks that come in my office, like a couple, a throuple, regardless, because guess what? You can cheat if you are engaged in ethical non-monogamy, you can still cheat. That's still, infidelity is still possible. Oftentimes people assume that, oh, you are into ethical non-monogamy because you are a cheater, or they assume you want to have your cake and eat it too. That's why you want to do ethical non-monogamy. And that's really not the case. Not the case at all. It actually seems that, especially people who are poly, it does seem to be an orientation. At least that's the way we're exploring it through research.
I have no interest in polygamy. I have enough trouble with one girlfriend at a time. Having more than, are you kidding me? I don't want, just one. I don't want to.
So, polygamy is
twice the trouble. That's twice the trouble.
Polyamory is different.
Yeah. Dating and stuff. But more than one is trouble.
It's too much for Brandon.
You got to remember their names. You gotta.
I mean, that's like,
remember what cake they like before you eat it too.
Like, is this why you're not successful at Tinder? Can you not remember one name?
I mean, it's basically all the same name these days. Masha, and Masha. It's all these Russians.
Oh yes, the bots that you continue to see.
It's lots of bots. I don't ever get anything of quality on Tinder. Bumble, I'm up in the air about still, but Well, and I'm sure dating apps are another reason people start kind of checking the waters out.
Again, opportunity, right?
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity, you're more likely. And here's the reality: like we have this moral, very, very like cultural moral stance on cheating. And most of it is cultural assumptions that are really inherently incorrect. And there's more people who engage in cheating. It's not limited to any gender identity. It's not that people who identify as men are more likely to do it. People who identify as women, like everybody can cheat. It doesn't mean you're more or less like, I mean, we could be here all day talking about just that. But
so this is about
I would like to
relationship.
say the numbers that, so I'm going to post an article here that we're talking about from Dr. Justin Lee Miller that talked about the 5 practical steps you can take to cheat proof your relationship, which I don't like the idea of cheat proof because I disagree.
Chastity belts, new locks on the doors.
You gonna lock somebody in a closet somewhere? Like what?
Handcuffs.
But anyway,
Fuzzy
studies
handcuffs.
have found that between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 married adults report having sex outside of their relationship at some point. 1 in 4. 1 in 5. That's pretty significant.
It's huge.
Right?
Yeah.
For younger adults in dating relationships, the number are even higher. This is crazy town right here.
Oh, yeah.
1 in 2.
Oh, yeah.
1 in 3.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
oh, I know a guy who
cultural. We don't have a cultural definition of what cheating is. Like then is somebody applying that cheating definition to something that maybe that other person didn't view as cheating? Like I've worked with people who are like, within 500 miles, you can't sleep with anybody, but outside that 500 miles, have a good time. And that's their rule. That's the rule for that relationship. I have worked with people who see porn as cheating. I have worked with people who see fantasizing about something like erotica is cheating. I mean, our cultural definitions are all over the place.
They're extinct.
All over the place. And there seems to be a vast assumption with those cultural expectations that everyone sees it the way that we do. Which is like,
well, I think that's the conversation you have to have in your relationship at the beginning of the relationship. This is what I view cheating as. Maybe. Just maybe a good conversation to have.
Do you know how many conversations I want people to have before they decide to be in a relationship? I tell you.
People wouldn't be in relationships. They wouldn't have the time.
I mean, but you know what's also crazy. I mean, these numbers, science takes time, but the people who have like premarital counseling, so people who actually go to therapy before they get married, the likelihood of success is actually really, really high. It's like it really improves your odds. It's like something I'm going to quote it completely wrong, but it's something crazy, like 70-80% more likely to have a successful relationship or a successful marriage. And the reason is because of what you just said. A therapist encourages you to ask questions of yourself and your relationship and ask yourselves about what are your cultural norms? What are your expectations for each other? I can't tell you how many times it has happened where a couple, throuple, somebody walks into my office or into my virtual office and they have not had conversations about what does pleasure mean to them. What are their expectations around frequency of sex? What are their expectations around relationships with other people? Would they like to have children or not?
I do feel like the children conversation is one of those, oh, I'm just gonna, I can change his mind, or I can change her mind. It seems like that's one of those conversations specifically that ends up there. Teresa's looking here. Yeah. Some people view cheating on levels outside of physical, sexual as well. Some think confiding, relying on someone for emotional support outside of your romantic relationship can be considered cheating as well, which is crazy. So here's where I stand with my line.
All right. Let's hear it. Let's hear you.
If you're doing it in secret.
Okay. So secrecy matters to you.
If you are relying on someone outside of the relationship for emotional support, then, and it's not discussed, and it might happen to be an ex-boyfriend.
Okay. I'm with you. I'm on the journey.
Maybe I've been down this road before.
You might be telling us the story.
Yeah.
Where's my popcorn?
I consider that to be emotional cheating. You might not be physically cheating, you might not be sexually cheating, but you're
crossing your boundaries.
Yeah, you're emotionally cheating on the relationship, because if you can't depend on your partner for the emotional support, then I think you have some greater issues in your relationship. Because you're introducing a third party's motives into your relationship that's between someone else.
I mean, I'm gonna throw it because I like to throw the bombs. I like to lob them in. Okay, we were talking about arranged marriage here.
I mean, if you're talking about an arranged marriage, you're talking about a woman going to likely her mother in most situations.
Perhaps.
I mean, that's if you're going to a family member.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yes. If you're going to a family member, that makes sense.
Do you see how many pieces, though, we have already uncovered about people that are just not talking? They're just not talking.
They ain't talking. Yeah.
And they're not talking about the different scenarios. They're not talking about things that they're worried about. And I mean, for good reason. Like, I don't want to say that, like, I don't want the tone of my voice to sound like I think people are stupid for this. That's not it at all. A lot of times people are not aware that they're in a state of what we call limerence. And I know you and I've talked about this, is when you're dating somebody, you really want to be around them, your brain and your body actually respond to them chemically. And that chemical concoction feels really good. And it's really, really hard to then ask questions about red flags. It's really hard to then actually have conversations about values, which is really, really important.
See, I do all that stuff before I start the relationship.
What do you mean?
I put that stuff out there from the start, even before getting into a further, because I'm in the unique position where if you haven't Googled me, one of your friends is going to Google me.
No, I mean, it's fair. Everybody should be Googling everybody. That's more than likely what's probably already happened, right?
But what you're going to find about me, it may be stuff that is going to deal with certain things along, your mother goes off and Googles me, or dad, and if I haven't put that up front, then
grandma.
So I have to have I mean, I wouldn't say it hasn't happened, but I have to have conversations up front, because otherwise I'm going to have someone that's going to stand in between me and what I want to do.
Fair.
Because oftentimes what I want to do is not necessarily totally socially acceptable as normal.
But also, well, what is normal, and are we actually aiming for it? I mean, come on.
I mean, number one, I'm making movies. So, every dad is like, also, independent filmmaker, time to go, honey. You need someone a little bit more, get rid of him. Oh, filmmaker, is that short for basement dweller? Oh yeah.
Hobbit.
Sure, I prefer Hobbit. Oh, you're a pornographer.
Oh goodness, I can only imagine. I can only imagine the conversations that you may have had to have, or
I'm sorry, your mom watched me doing what? That was a good one.
Your mom was the one with the
Oh my goodness.
So back to
both of them,
like
same time.
Cheating. The one of the things Dr. Justin Lee Miller talks about is the suggestion we just addressed. Like start by defining what cheating means in the context of your own relationship. This absolutely matters. Like you need to have this conversation. Yeah, and even if you're not in the beginning of a relationship, you need to be having it. You need to understand what it means. What does monogamy mean to you? What is that? If that's what you want. I'm telling everyone, every single person who is listening, do not open your relationship as a result of a conflict in that relationship. Please deal with your shit. And if you're open to an open relationship or an ethical non-monogamy, great, but don't do it because there's a conflict in the relationship. If there's a conflict in a relationship that then can't be overcome because of exploration or after you've explored that, maybe with a therapist, and it does seem that it would work, because there are people who are in relationships. Like I've had folks come through my practice who one figures out like, really, I'm asexual and I'm just really actually turned off and disgusted by sex, but I still love this person. We still want to be in a relationship. We have an amazing connection. We actually really support one another and we have very similar values. Okay, so now you've maybe potentially addressed this difference between you and the partner who is not asexual, and then the two of you make that decision together with full knowledge, and then make the decision to open the relationship if that's what you want to do. Does that kind of make sense? Like, I say all that because sometimes I get people in my office who are like, oh, okay, we're going to open up a relationship, but they haven't handled any of the conflicts of the reason why they've even decided to even think about opening up.
Yeah. So don't do that. That would be such a complicated.
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot for the people involved too. So, number 2, keep your sex life exciting by trying new things. The argument here is that one of the biggest reasons people cheat is because they aren't having as much sex as they'd like, or not getting what they'd want out of sex. Now this is fundamentally true. This is why, I mean, sex therapists will be in business forever, because humans really, really struggle. They really struggle with having these conversations about what they want, what they like, and then expressing that to their partner. And most of the time, it has a lot to do with a fear of rejection.
This is why I need to get you a set of Porn the Game cards. Mm-hmm. Porn the Game is great. It's got like pictures and stuff too, and you can just like.
You know what? We need to have the creators of Porn the Game on. That would be fun.
Yeah, I wonder if George would. George is great. I'll message him and see what he says.
Be fun. Just Porn the Game is great. Sidebar. Before I jumped on, I was on Twitter, and Exotica was doing a live stream with and of course her name and his name just absolutely left me, but two very famous people who have done many porn movies. And when I saw him, I was like, oh, I've seen you in some of these. I know you. And they were talking about like making some of the movies that they've made and some of their experiences. It was really cool.
Oh, really cool. Live now. Wait, who is this? They didn't tag the people. Oh, it's Evan Stone.
Yes, Evan Stone. Thank you.
Evan is so funny. Oh, Evan, I love him. He's a sweetheart.
Pirates movie. I don't know. What is the name of that movie? I don't remember. But
Pirates. Spagnetti's Revenge. Pirates. Yeah, I was supposed to do that was Stoya's first big feature. I was supposed to do all of her acting coaching on that before we broke up because she decided she wanted to date Marilyn Manson. Anyways, not bitter.
Not bitter at all. No.
Not bitter. No, it's all right. It's all right, honey. Go off and date that freak of nature and let him have my sloppy seconds. Go for it. Go for it. So anyway,
I'm just gonna say this biased opinion. You're hotter than Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, but sometimes people are not looking for hot.
I guess.
Sometimes people like the charisma and the personality. Yeah, Evan's great. He reminds me a lot of one of my other buddies, Joe Gallant, who is a kind of auteur pornographer. In that they both seem to have done some microdosing back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Because Evan's like, wow, yeah, man. Yeah, wow, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. Whoa, colors. Yeah, this is great. Wow, look at the experience. Yeah, definitely. Like, you're seeing things the rest of us are not seeing at the moment. Okay, bro. All right. I love him. I met Evan last year at Exotica, and he and I were hanging out. He's cool. He's cool.
Also, I loved Pirates. I loved that movie. It was campy. It was great. And the production value was crazy for porn. It was amazing.
Let's see if I've hung out with Katie at all. Katie Morgan was who he was on with.
Yes, he was on that live stream with Katie Morgan. They were talking a little bit about some more mainstream movie that they had been in with Kevin Smith and Jay. What's Jay's last name? Actual Jay. What's Jay's actual last name?
Jay?
From Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, it's not Keanu Reeves. What
No, Jay. His name is Jay, but I can never remember his actual last name because I only know him as Jay and Silent Bob. I only know
Jason Mewes.
That's true. Jason Mewes. Thank you. They were that's what they were talking about when I was checking out the live stream earlier.
So Evan Stone, that's great. All right, what's this next point? What are we? So something we were bringing up there, change things up, make sex exciting. So
yes,
experimental. Get some dice
for sex. It's novelty. Novelty is important when it comes to sex, and it doesn't have to be something like off the wall, something that you have to like be super creative about. Not our brain actually responds pretty well to novelty or very easily. Something new, a new smell, a new candle, a new lubricant, a new position, a new maybe you add a blindfold, maybe you add whatever it is, newness. It can really
but it seems like the problem is most people sexual education is just crap.
Sucks.
So it seems like you kind of need a prompting tool. So whether start off by buying dice that give you options, or something else that gives you options, and then maybe move to putting individually, without telling the other person, putting things onto pieces of paper and putting them into a hat, and then pulling one out. There's because otherwise most people lack the sexual vocabulary, don't they?
Yes, absolutely. People often really lack their sexual vocabulary, but they also lack like an understanding of their deep feelings that actually drive a lot of their erotic interests. So like the feelings that, say somebody really wants to try on being submissive, like the feelings behind that are important to understand, because then you understand what you're searching for, and then you can also describe it to your partner. And so you then create a common language about not only just your feelings, but some of the things that you would like to do that correspond to those feelings. So like, I'm just thinking about like, I encourage people to kind of go back to understanding what did they enjoy about play? Right? So like what brought them joy as kids or made them feel curious or things like that. And bring some of that curiosity back into the bedroom. You can, I mean, people, you can grab some fun shaving cream, add some different colors to the shaving cream and paint each other in the shower, right? You could, I mean, even I think Crayola actually makes these different colored foams, and you could actually do that in the shower. And
are you
and
suggesting people have a foam party?
Foam parties in your own house.
A foam party.
Stay home and have a foam party in your shower or tub.
Marco Rubio. I always like when Marco Rubio tells his foam party stories.
Marco Rubio.
Yes, Marco Rubio's.
Marco Rubio, go to therapy. If you're listening, go to therapy.
He wears these high-heeled boots. And then he talks about all this fun he had in Miami going to foam parties in like the late 80s. And anyone who was in the area in the late 80s knows the foam parties were only gay parties.
Oh.
So he's been saying these coded things for years. Anyways.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yet,
I do like the high heels, though, that he wears.
Judgy.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, okay, number 3.
Goes with the territory.
Fair. Maintain close, intimate connection with your partner. Falling out of love is a common reason for cheating. This often happens when partners begin to drift apart over time, find themselves rarely having meaningful conversations and touching each other. This is true, especially along the lines of when folks come into my office, they are often in the most dire place. They wait until things are really shitty, and then they come to me for therapy. And
hello, Bree Simpson. Thank you. She's laughing at us.
I know.
We're talking about the dire wolves in your office.
The dire wolves, exactly. But they've waited until they don't want to have conversations with their partner anymore. 1 or 2, they've waited until they have not touched one another. And then I'm not just talking about sexual touch. I'm talking about sexual touch too. I'm talking about when you walk by and put your hand on your partner's back, or you are seeking out to hold hands, or like any kind of intimate touch, any kind of like, my husband and I are constantly, smacking each other on the butt. Like that's one of our things.
Oh, my parents used to do that.
I know we are those parents.
Dad.
We are.
And then he'd like take something and put it around his head, put a towel around his head. And he's like, "Oh, I am ya sir, ya betcha, ya sure." Like, Dad,
you were probably seeing their role play right in front of you. It was probably amazing. It's so uncomfortable.
He's the yeah, he'd do that stuff. Dad. Ew.
As much as kids really like get grossed out and freaked out, seeing their caregivers or parents actually like
flirting,
intimate with one another and flirting is really helpful to them. It helps them see that they have a secure base of a relationship to rely on.
And we are all learning through play acting anyways, so
exactly. The modeling that we see our parents do is really, really impacts our ability to then do that with partners. So, number 5. Lastly, be sure to address sexual relationship problems as they arise rather than letting them fester and grow. Big surprise. I've already said that tonight. So, not putting problems off to the very end, not putting things off and waiting until a year has passed before you have touched one another. A year has passed.
A year?
Next. Oh, yeah. I get people in my office all the time where it has been months or years since they have touched each other, had any kind of erotic connection.
I mean, I would think you should start getting warning signals at about 2 weeks.
You would get warning signals about then asking questions, right? Like
Because
that's
isn't the
you're
average,
talking about that's
like,
instinctual for you.
isn't the average, although it's like a piss poor number, isn't the average number of times a couple has sex each month like 4 or something?
Yeah, it's 1 to 4.
I mean, really, if you haven't touched someone in 2 weeks, you should start touching someone. Like,
Oftentimes, though, there's a reason. There's usually there is a reason that we have gotten to the point where it's been a year, right? Like there's some sort of it can be a very, very numbered of things that people are building resentment, or say a person is they've had children and their vision of their bodies have changed, or their vision of the dynamics between them have changed. Like there's lots and lots of reasons why people end up waiting a very long time before they address a lot of these problems. But I'm here to tell you, do it early. Please address the problems early. Please go to therapy early. It makes, I mean, of course I'm biased. I would love for my job to be a little easier. It's a little easier when people don't wait too long. But also
but then they wouldn't need you.
I would love to work my ass out of a job. You know what?
Okay, that's good. Then, that's good. You're not like that marriage counselor from Ozark.
No, thank you.
I
don't want to have clients for 4 or 5 years. I want them to get better and I want them to move on and do life without me. That's what so the therapy relationship is meant to model what a healthy relationship could be. And you get essentially practice with your therapist in that relationship. It's not a sexual relationship. It's not a romantic relationship. It's not a friendship. It's essentially a testing ground for you to learn how to have your own boundaries, explore your own life, and then understand how you are as a human. And that includes you and your sex life too. Anybody who's been to therapy understands, I've been to therapy myself, understands that you get to explore your whole self. And then take that and take those tools you learn into the world.
Yeah.
Abba says hello. Hi, Abba.
Yes. Abba says hello. Hello, Abba.
But I honestly, I just kind of want to dispel that. I am very much respect Dr. Justin Lee Miller. I love his work and his book, Tell Me What You Want, as far as fantasy data goes. If you want to learn more about how common all of our fantasies are, go check out Tell Me What You Want. But as far as actually cheat proofing your relationship, I don't think that that's a possibility. And I also think that actually puts too much pressure on yourself. If you feel like you need to cheat proof your relationship, you're not unpacking what the worry, what do you believe about cheating, and is that a form of perfectionism that you're trying to act out in the world?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, you're saying it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
In some ways, we definitely, as humans, are capable of that. Are capable of believing a thing so much, especially that has definitely, folks have walked into my office that they are constantly worried because of their own self-worth that partners or their partner is going to cheat on them because they internally believe they're worthless, when in reality that's not the case. But that worth question then dictates their actions, and then can cause some alienation between them and their partner. One of my friends and colleagues, Amanda Luderman, y'all look up her work around erotic empathy, is essentially that if your self-concept is negative, that doesn't mean that your partner's concept of you is. So when your partner compliments you and says, hey, your ass looks great in those jeans. Accepting that is their erotic vision of you. And for you to say, no, my ass looks fat, actually invalidates their erotic experience.
Or retorting and saying that's a misogynist comment is attacking.
I tell my husband that his ass looks great in his shorts and or jeans. Usually shorts. We're in Florida.
I can't wear shorts. I look like the crocodile hunter.
Steve Irwin.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. My dad used to wear.
Do you look boxy?
I'm boxy. I'm like a boxy size, like my dad. And when my dad would do it with his rolled up cuffs and I was like, dorky. Abba writes, a friend with benefits relationship can be considered a cheat-proof relationship, right? Well,
no.
What we've been talking about, and you missed, was that no, because you can very easily
develop expectations.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people who have ended up in my office and they're coming in and they say, well, I had this friends with benefits relationship and then that person went and dated somebody else and they told me that they weren't ready for a serious relationship. And there's your expectations issue there, right? Like that was not talked about or laid out. Oftentimes friends with benefits relationships, not always. I'm not going to characterize them always. Sometimes people can have friends with benefits relationships that are very boundaried and can have those conversations and say, hey, no, I really enjoy our time together, but we're just here for the sex. And the other person can agree to that. But a lot of times people have to deal with the feelings that come up when they see that other person maybe have other partners, or when maybe the relationship dynamics change and then that's not discussed.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that friends with benefits relationships can't work. It's just that oftentimes, again, humans are not talking about their boundaries around their expectations of the relationship. That's typically why. And then somebody gets mad because somebody crossed somebody's boundaries they were unaware of. That's usually the case. Oopsie.
Boundaries? Oopsie. What are boundaries? I thought you really liked your roommate that much.
Boundaries are hard. Boundaries are hard for humans and they're really, really hard to say out loud.
Yeah.
And then hold them.
Yeah. No, a lot of people end up getting manipulated past their boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Very much.
Or I can't tell you how often somebody will say, oh, this is my boundary. And then because of their lack of practice actually holding a boundary, really, that's oftentimes when people will falter. I'm not saying this in a way like in a judgy way. This is just this comes from having worked with many people who are trying to understand what their own boundaries are, then express them, and then hold them after you've expressed them. And it's boundaries are not just a thing like, oh, you let somebody know once. More than likely, what you have to do is say, okay, this is my boundary. This is my expectation is around that boundary. And this is how I expect you to hold that boundary.
Yeah.
And it's not easy to do, especially when we're worried about rejection, or especially when we're worried about abandonment. Somebody's going to leave us. Sometimes we cross our own boundaries.
Yeah. I try not to cross my own boundaries too often in the shower.
I mean, fair.
I mean, what are you doing? Stop. It's a boundary. Bad.
So
bad.
you I know you went before we're done tonight. I know you went out and took some pictures today, didn't you?
Yesterday. I try to keep my camera with me all the time.
I know the pictures you've been taking are pretty freaking fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been trying to. You got to keep creating when you're stuck indoors. us creatives got to do something. Otherwise, we're going to go nuts. And I was being driven nuts. Thankfully, I am a driving New Yorker. So it's like, what, I have an escape vehicle, and I think that's a greater metaphor for everything. People have escape vehicles, but it's taking that escape vehicle and actually doing it.
Yeah, fair. No, Breeze, just letting us know.
I wasn't laughing at you guys, just with you.
We
That's the
appreciate
way we like it. Thank you.
Or at us.
Yeah.
We are wacky.
Yeah, you can laugh at us. I mean, most people have been laughing at me most of my. I think that's what that right there. That would cheat proof a relationship. If you can learn as a couple to laugh at each other.
Oh my
And
gosh.
laugh with
So
each
much,
other.
like the more that you can really understand, like, and not take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
That can get you a long way. It really, really, really can.
I honestly don't know how some of these younger folks, and I can't believe I'm even saying that now. I guess now that I'm in my 30s, there are younger folks.
Like, man.
But like the 20s, the 20s set seem to take themselves so seriously.
Oh yeah.
So seriously. And it's like, you're not going to move a mountain. It's okay. You can have some fun trying to move the mountain, but you're not going to. And so while you're doing it, stop attacking so many people. Because some of these people might actually come around to your side and want to help you out a little bit if you hadn't attacked them so much.
I am exciting though to see like Gen Z come to fruition and come of age. They are sneaky tech sneaky tech kids.
Sneaky tech kids.
Oh yeah, like, well, what they do,
Well, you have Gen Zers, don't you?
I have a Gen. Well, I guess my son would be Gen Z too. I guess they're 7 years apart. So 14 and 7. So yeah, I guess they're both Gen Z. Yeah.
It depends on who you talk to about it. And it's variously been 1995 and 2000 as the start of Gen Z. Variously.
1995. 2000. Yeah, 2005 and then 2012.
Yeah, they're both Gen Z.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they're on, it's kind of like what I deal with, where I'm on such one side of the millennials.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Do they mark the millennial like the 1982 or something like that?
It goes between either saying millennials are a hard 1980 or there's a Zennial, Gen X, millennial, micro sub generation that goes from 80 to 83.
I'm 84. Where the fuck am I?
I think it depends a lot on your access to technology.
Yeah.
I think if you grew up with a lot of access to technology very young, then you have more Gen X experiences because you were younger when you had access to certain things that may have taken other people longer. Yeah.
A gateway.
Oh gosh.
The cow box. Do you remember this? Yeah, the cow box. Do you remember this?
Oh,
I remember that.
God help you. Those things fell apart.
Oh, yeah.
Not quite as bad as Dell, that sold their own law firm some of the worst computers in the history of the world. They were dying faster than anything. Their own law firm.
Oh, they were so popular then. Do you remember that though? Those and the those very colorful apples.
Yeah. No, Gateway. I built my computers. I built my computers.
My husband did the same thing. He built his own. I was not that.
So much
I wasn't
cheaper.
raised around that much tech. And that first computer wasn't until I was in like middle school.
Yeah. So that's more of a millennial. That's more millennial experience.
Much more middle school.
So
and I didn't have like any of that. I didn't have my own computer until I was in college.
We had a family computer in the early 80s. And I say family because it was Dad's work computer, but Brandon taught himself how to do DOS programming, so Brandon could access it. And Brandon wanted to because Dad had secreted away a floppy disk with Pong on it, and Brandon wanted to play Pong.
Oh, yeah.
So Brandon taught himself how to mount a floppy disk.
Nice.
Without the internet.
I did play Pong, but I think I played Pong in school. And I played let's see, what the early games that I played? Like Myst was one of the early games that I like actually played.
Myst was weird.
Myst was weird.
Myst was weird.
Myst was super weird.
The like guidebook, if you bought it for Myst, was like that thick.
It's just very
so many puzzles.
Very, very strange. My dad played Duke Nukem and he played Descent. And I played Duke Nukem because he let me play Duke Nukem. I was in middle school. I thought I was cool. Duke Nukem.
I had a map editor for Descent.
Are you serious?
I used to design 3-dimensional maps that I would then play.
That is amazing.
I had so much fun with that.
I just had like a Descent flashback watching my dad play.
Yeah, 3-dimensional.
Oh yeah, the flight simulators were super popular then. Joysticks.
Oh, the things I used to find at my neighbor's house when I would babysit, like Leisure Suit Larry.
Oh, Leisure Suit Larry! Oh my gosh! So I remember there was a compilation thing. Oh God, do you have Leisure Suit Larry? Do you have? Oh my God, are you serious? Oh my God!
PS4.
Okay, wait, no. Hold that shit up. I need to see what the cover looks like now. What does he look like? Oh my God. He looks a little different. I remember him being heavier set. Am I remembering that wrong?
No, he was always pretty I think they've changed up his face a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, because he does. He looks very different.
I seem to remember him being a little bit obviously skeezier looking.
Yeah. Very. Yeah. That's fun. Oh, really? You need to like take some screenshots and then share them with me.
I tried to play it, but it's got one of these old content protection things on it, so I've got to track down the old manual to figure out. Oh my God. Because it's checking what your age is, and so you can't even get into it unless you're like 60. And remember what the old things were. Oh, it's terrible.
I played the demo. So there was a disc I remember that came with the computer that had like the new and up and coming games, and the demo for Leisure Suit Larry was on there.
Duke Nukem was pretty randy as well.
Oh yeah, there was the entire, what was that? There was the strip club scene.
Oh yeah. Tassels.
There was the tassels. There was the but they ended up being the alien pigs, so you had to kill them.
Yep. I'm usually bored and doing God mode.
I mean, why not?
Why not? Fly everywhere.
But yes, we could be here. We could be here talking about the old that we all played. And it is Friday, and my brain is slowly shutting down.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in.
We've enjoyed you all. Thank you for all of the things in the chat. It always makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So we will see you next week for sure.
We may be off next week. I might be at the cabin.
I
get internet up there. I could probably pop in
on a tour
using my phone.
I mean, either way. We can also
we'll figure it out.
Brandon and I, so the audience isn't aware of this, but Brandon and I have been very clear about during the summer getting to take some extra weeks off when we need to, because COVID is a lot, y'all. It's a lot.
It's a lot. So, thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah.
We will catch you
See y'all
shortly.
next time.
Yeah.
Bye, y'all.